But there were two school teachers. I got to mention this first. One in the sixth grade by the name of Miss Warren, who told me that I just need to quit school. I was going to graduate and so forth. As I matriculated through school and different accomplishments and goals that I made, I always made sure I went back to let her know, that sixth grade teacher, know that I had stayed in school and was progressing on. I think the last time that I saw her was when I made All-American in my junior year.
Hello and welcome to the Leave Your Legacy Show. I'm your host, Kenya Murray, and today's guest, I'm just kind of reading through things, and this man has done a lot. There's a lot of things that I want to ask him because I'm very intrigued because some of the things he's done, I am aspiring to do, but please welcome George W. Tinsley to the show. Mr. Tinsley, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Kenyon, and it's my privilege to be on your show. You know, I did a little checking on your previous shows, and you do an outstanding job. So I'm excited about being on your show.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But yeah, let's jump into it. So we have to start at the beginning because, you know, the people that we have on our show, they're leaving a legacy in one way, shape, or form. I tell people all the time that you don't have to be a CEO. You can be someone that works in a school, and there's always somebody looking to you for leadership, for guidance, for mentorship. But you had a tough upbringing. So could you share with our audience, tell a little bit about yourself, growing up in Louisville, and then going on and winning 3 NCAA championships in college. And that's just the start of who you are and what you've done. So please share with our audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, Kenyon, I don't want to get too long-winded, so you have to give me a high sign or something where to stop. And I might say also that my whole life story is in my book, my latest book called Catch as Catch Can, which is a nice way of saying turning your obstacles into opportunities. So my life started in Louisville, Kentucky, in the east end of Kentucky, where my mother left me with a babysitter. And the story is that she didn't come back. And so the babysitter, who was 65 years old, had one leg, couldn't read or write, was a good Christian lady, and kept other kids also. After a while, she was basically dependent upon the babysitting salary that she was getting, and sometimes mothers could pay, and sometimes they couldn't, and also a Social Security check, where her husband had passed away. And so she resorted to taking care of kids. And so she started, after a period of time, she started moving around the city of Louisville, and it possibly could have, something could have happened. I don't know what the story is. I hear different stories, so I just take at face value that God was in control, and everything that turned out because of him, and I'm happy with the whole story. But we moved into area of Louisville called Smoketown, where I spent most of my growing days from the eighth grade on. In the eighth grade at 13, she passed away, and I moved in with her son and his wife, and they took care of me from that point on through high school and through college. There's a number of different bumps in the road, as you can imagine, during that particular period. And if you'd like, I'll go back into those at some point during our story. But we in Smoketown is where I learned to play basketball, which became the vehicle that kind of turned my life around. But there were two school teachers. I got to mention this first. One in the sixth grade by the name of Miss Warren, who told me that I just need to quit school. I was going to graduate and so forth. So at that point, I just went back, sat down, kind of smiled about the whole thing. And I was a class clown because that was my defense mechanism, being tall, poor, wearing the same clothes every day and so forth. So that was my offensive move as well as my defense, but I made it through sixth grade. And my seventh grade school teacher, her name was Miss Howell. And she took me under her wings and provided a motivation, giving me a job, and I could keep that job as long as I kept my grades and so forth. And she introduced me to the gym teacher, which started me playing basketball. So those two were two pivotal points in that early childhood. But the basketball spurred me on through middle school, junior high school, and into high school, where I got a scholarship to college. And my skill level was developing every year. I wasn't the greatest player in the state. I made third team All-State. And our team was ranked number one in the state for a number of years, but we never won state championship. But going into college, I followed a good friend who played with me in high school. He was a year ahead of me, by the name of Dallas Thornton. He went to Wesleyan, and the coach that had coached at our high school, he was at Wesleyan as the head coach. So they recruited me, and some other schools around did. I had more track scholarships than I did basketball, but I loved basketball. I loved track also, but I felt basketball was a full scholarship. Track was a partial scholarship. And it was the first time for me being out of the city of Louisville. And so went down there and because of my defensive skills and rebounding, made the starting five as a freshman. And we went on to win the Division II NCAA championship my first year. And after winning, we were asked to be goodwill ambassadors for the United States and travel to Europe and Africa teaching basketball for that summer. I almost flunked out of school because I didn't have any formal practices with respect to studying and those kinds of things that you have to do to be a good student. I just did it the natural way. But I came back from Africa, and which was a great experience with our team, the teammates we had. That we formed a bond. Got my grades up, and we had our very best team in my sophomore year, but we came in third place. We got beat by Earl Monroe. The year before we'd played, Walt Frazier was at SIU, so we beat that group. But the next year we ran into Earl, and I did not play. I got sick and did not play. So I always tell my teammates that was on them. Just joking with them, but we came in third place that year, and then we won the championship in my junior year. We won the championship in my senior year. I made All-American both years. Had an opportunity to travel for the 1968 Olympic team. Became an alternate. Got hurt during the practices and so forth. That was the year that Martin Luther King got killed, and a lot of athletes were boycotting the Olympics and so forth. But that was a great experience. You did extremely well in college academically. Met my wife in college, started dating her. She was 2 years behind me, and got drafted at the end of the year by the NBA, Chicago Bulls, ABA by the Oakland Oaks. And NBA, was an established league. They wanted everybody to come in and go through all these different camps, which having gone through that Olympic scenario, if you got hurt, you're out. Yeah. So the ABA, they were putting up money up front. The poor kid, I grabbed the money and bought me a 1969 GTO, and I was off to the races. But before I even got to Oakland, they sold the team and moved to Washington. So all of a sudden, this whole ABA experience was always a very, very interesting experience. But I went to Washington, and then got the Kentucky Colonels, which is in my hometown. They bought my contract. I went back there. The head coach was my high school coach.
Wow.
Lo and behold. And so I had played 3 years in the ABA, and Then I got the team Miami Floridians, which was the last team I played with. They folded, and my contract was sold to New York. I just got married that year, 1972, and so I went up to try out and did not make the team. But Dallas wanted me to come to their teams for tryouts, but I decided to hang it up. Fortunately, I had education and I had responsibilities and so forth. So I had some job offers back there and went back and became a teacher and a coach at the high school where I actually played. So I'm gonna stop right there because I'm getting kind of long-winded here. But I'll let you, if there's anything in that particular phase you want to ask me about, certainly we could talk about.
Yeah, I think that lays the groundwork for a lot of the conversation that I wanted to have with you because I think what your story shows is obviously you don't have to come from the best places, so to speak, in order to be successful. And we talk about a lot. The journey's never straight. It doesn't matter. Like the journey is winding, there's ups and downs. And so I do want to go back to that sixth grade teacher. In that moment, now that you look back on it, what were you feeling? Was that something that, I mean, did it just strike you at your core where you're like, you know what? I'm going to do everything I can to prove her wrong? Or was it something where a lot of people are like, okay, they let what someone says to them define them? What were you looking back on that now, that moment in sixth grade? What does it look like now, having gone through everything that you've gone through? Was it that moment where you're like, I'm just going to prove her wrong? Or was it a moment where you're like, you know what, maybe she's right? I just kind of want to get an idea of what you were thinking and how that kind of propelled you into the success that you had.
I think it was a combination of things because that was 2 years into integration. And so at that particular school, it was the second year of kids coming from the black school into the white school, and so the teachers there weren't too happy. At least that was my assumption. They weren't too happy about all these kids coming in. We had to take tests and they had to figure out where each student needed to be. And at that time, I was moved back a year, and so there was already in my mindset that I did not think that they really wanted us to be there, or in this case, wanted me to be there. So I wanted to go to school. I love school. I love being around my classmates and so forth. So I took it at the time, as I think back on it, I took it as somewhat of a motivation, but at the same time, same time, I took it as a put down because at that age, based off of my home situation at the time, I was already down, if you will. Yeah. And so, but like a number of different things that happened in my life during that period, became a challenge. So as I matriculated through school and different accomplishments and goals that I made, I always made sure I went back to let her know, that sixth grade teacher, know that I had stayed in school and was progressing on. I think the last time that I saw her was when I made All-American in my junior year. I went back to that area to let her know. They finally shut that school down, so I don't know what happened to her. But the seventh grade school teacher, we still stay in touch today.
Wow, that's amazing. And what was it about her? What does she see in you? As you guys have talked about that, what did she see in you to be that person to take you under her wings and mentor you at that time?
She always tells me that she saw the smile, the positivity from me at the time. She knew she was just fresh out of college, her first year teaching, and so she's a very attractive lady, and had a lot of the men teachers around there would always come visiting her and so forth. So I think she looked at me as a project. And felt for my situation. She would bring sandwiches. She would bring fruit, apples, oranges, bananas, and so forth to school for me, share with me. And she noticed that I never went to the lunchroom; that I always went to the gym for lunch because they gave us these little tickets that get a free lunch. Well,
Yeah.
I that was another one of those situations I didn't really care for, so I just went to the gym and played whatever was going on there in the gym. And so she noticed that. That's how she first started asking questions and so forth. So I think she saw the an opportunity to give back, and she's just that kind of person. She's still today at 95 years old, still
Yeah.
helping people back there in Louisville, Kentucky.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Your story definitely shows that, we all have to have people along the way. People that believe in us, people that push us, and even those people that put us down, we can utilize that as motivation. And I see some very aligning things where you had people at Kentucky Wesleyan that knew you from high school. And then when you got done playing, or even when you were in the pros, you had a coach coaching the team in Kentucky. It's like, okay, all these people were in the right place, at the right time for you. Um, and so I want to ask you this. Everything that you've done, and this is kind of jumping around a little bit, but everything you've done, has it been something like all these people poured into me, I have to repay them by doing the same thing? So the people that were instrumental in your life, has that been a point for you to make sure that you're doing the same thing for others that people did for you growing up?
Sure. That as I've always looked back on my life, it was a lot of positive role models that looked out for me
Mhm.
because it was just Mama, the lady who raised me, and myself, and so it took the village, if you will, to help raise us. And so when I would get out of line, when I was doing things that I shouldn't be doing, people would step up and say, you need to straighten up. You need to get back there. I'm going to tell your mama on you, that kind of scenario, because as I said, they knew our situation.
Yeah.
And there were people that gifted different food, clothing, different things to me and Mama during those times. I'll never forget. There were 2 years in a row for Christmas, finding $20 just laying on the ground in different two different spots. One year was on Broadway, one year was on Walnut Street, the street that I lived on, and that became my Christmas
Mhm.
because other than what the church gave out for Christmas. So, those times didn't seem that terribly bad because other kids in the neighborhood were going through somewhat of the same thing. So I didn't feel like that my situation was worse. I think the thing that bothered me more than anything else, I didn't have any brothers or sisters. It was just me and Mama, and everybody else seemed to have brothers and sisters and so forth. What brothers that fought one another, that looked out after one another, and so forth. And we had gangs in the neighborhood, and so I avoided all that. Once I hit that level of becoming a fairly good basketball player,
Mhm.
then I got pulled into different positive circles, that opened up the other doors. So yeah, there was a very interesting time.
Yeah, yeah, and going on to college, there a great college career, obviously. I mean, to be in the Final Four every year, it was amazing in itself. But you talk about one of the things that as a program, owner, we have Murray Elite Basketball. I've been coaching at multiple levels since 1999. Um, One of the things that I know, like basketball was that vehicle you talked about. For you, it was the same thing for me. But one of the things that athletes struggle with at times is, who are we without the jersey? And obviously, you got drafted. You know, things happen. You said, "Hey, I had this opportunity, but I have responsibilities. I'm married now." Was that transition for you difficult, going from all you knew for, say, the last 7 8 years was being an athlete, and then all of a sudden you're thrown into the real world? because a lot of the athletes struggle with that today. And that's something that we talk to our athletes about all the time is don't let the jersey define you. So in your experience, what was it like making that transition from professional athlete into the real world where you had a 9 to 5?
Well, my transition actually started after college. In college, I started all 4 years, All American, the championships, and all of the glory that goes around it, that opened doors and so forth. As I went to the pros and went into the ABA, in particular, that it was a revolving door. There were players here today and gone tomorrow, and we had players some that did not go to college that were excellent players, did not have the fundamental skills, but were there. And so I went from in some games starting to other games not playing at all, and that was a real mental downer for me, not getting an opportunity to play and knowing that I could play. But in the ABA, it was all about putting butts in seats. So if you went to a University of Kentucky or if you went to a University of Louisville, then and you were more apt to play to draw the crowd in versus little old Kentucky Wesleyan, that D2 school, even though it was home there in Kentucky. But I began to supplement different activities and challenges as far as getting that graduation. Feeling good about what I was doing. So when I left pro ball, I began to work with underprivileged kids in the area, as well as the students at the school and the players on the team, helping them beyond basketball on the court. So fortunately, going back to the high school that I attended, a lot of the students there were coming from the community that I grew up in. So I knew their parents or had a connection that could, and having been a professional player, it kind of established a relationship. So, that was, I felt good about that. I missed playing and, played in the summer league, the Dirt Bowl, and I played in the Eastern League at a period of time. So, it gradually came, but still, just a few years ago, I was still helping youth teams and working with young players that were coming up. And Tracy McGrady, take for instance, I coached him when he was a 10-year-old on the AAU team, and of course Daryl Griffith, who was Dr. Duncanstein in the NBA for 12, 13 years, coached him, and several other players that went on to play in the NBA. Had an opportunity to work with, and a lot of other kids that had other careers, teachers, doctors, lawyers, and so forth, that came through our business, and as we reach back and work with kids.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about the business. Yeah, we're definitely going there because you have built an empire. I mean, there's no other way to put it, is you have built an empire. And when I was reading your bio, and I'm like, okay, KFC. Like you got started in the corporate space there, and what I love about it is you talk about one of the first positions you had there was like training instructor. So you were coaching. So you had been working with kids, coaching kids, but you're going into the corporate world and you're actually transitioning a lot of the skills that you used before into that position. So what was that like going up that corporate ladder? And I'm going to say this because I feel this a lot with me living in Iowa. You probably at times were one of few, or if the only African American in the room with, in the corporate space. So what was that like, learning, cutting your teeth and moving up the ladder at KFC, which led you to starting your own company and developing the empire that you have today?
Well, believe it or not, it wasn't. It was more difficult looking at it from the outside going in, but once I got in, it was not as difficult as it may may seem looking from the outside. You're right. All the skills that I had and experiences that I'd had from growing up in Smoketown and the East End of Louisville, Kentucky, and playing basketball, the teamwork concept, being a leader on the team, winning championships, losing championships, and so forth. All of those skill sets, coaching in high school, all of those skill sets stayed with me, and I was able to adapt given the situation that I was in. When I went out to Kentucky Fried Chicken to interview for a job, I was going out to be a salesperson for a friend of mine who had played in the ABA. But as I went through the interviewing circle, the human resource department was looking for trainers to help develop a national training center. Mm-hmm. And so they picked up in the interview my skills, and so that was the offer that I had. And by the way, I'd already accepted an offer to go to the FBI prior to that, but that was only for $14,500, and a couple of agents had just gotten killed out in the Dakotas. So this KFC job, training job, instructor, was $16,500. So that made it easy because my wife wasn't too happy about the FBI. As a matter of fact, I just spoke to a group of retired FBI agents, and I told them the story of this whole thing. But I went to KFC as a trainer, but I had no idea that I was going to be working with the colonel.
Yeah.
The actual real life colonel.
Right.
And so that was the intimidating factor. That was like, whoa, how am I going to do this? Because he's the one that invented all this stuff. But we took a picture. As a matter of fact, it's out there online. We took a picture with me with a basketball and him with a bucket of chicken in there, and the advertising was Tinsley still making buckets, because I'm local there in Louisville, Kentucky. So anyway, long story short, and I did not know anything about business, nothing about P&Ls, reading income statements, cash flow analysis, any of that stuff, as well as I never worked in a KFC before. So I had to learn all of that. It took me about 6 months of training, traveling around to different markets. They sent me around different markets to go through training, and then we jumped right in there. And the teaching part of it was the easy part because I had that background skill. But learning, I did the actual theoretical learning as well as the franchisees that were coming through the class, mm-hmm. gaining some experience based off of the stories that they had. So I was able to build those stories into my lesson plan, and so it was off to the races. And some of the students that their owners, they were offering me jobs to come work for them, and then some of the markets that some of the leaders that were coming through, they were offering me jobs. So that went on for about 3 years, and finally, this mentor that I had that played in the ABA also, he said, "George, you can't keep turning down these jobs, or it's they're going to forget about you. You'll just be an instructor." So the next time I got an offer, which was in Atlanta, Georgia, as a area supervisor, I jumped at it, took that job. I just had our second child. We just had our second child, so I had to leave my wife in there in Louisville and go down so I could at least make sure I wasn't going to get fired, be successful with the job, and then relocated them down to Atlanta. But that's where things just took off. I went from 7 stores to 51 stores, back to the corporate office and human resources, from Kentucky to Hawaii. And then all of a sudden, I'm feeling like I'm ready to get a store of my own and everything. I went into office to resign. They said, "No, we can't let you go. We got another opportunity for you down in Florida." So they were just buying back the state of Florida from the colonel's daughter and son and grandson, and so they had to bring in those franchisees to get them reoriented on the program, the franchise agreements. Mm-hmm. And so after doing that for about 3 years, and Jesse Jackson had opened up the Operation Push program for minorities to get an opportunity to become a franchisee. That program was not doing extremely well, so he started looking in house, and that's how I got an opportunity to become a franchisee on the street. And so once we opened that first restaurant, it was just totally overwhelming at first.
Yeah.
But we were able to settle in, and all the things I'd learned and seen with other franchisees, I was able to pour into that restaurant. It was extremely successful. Became one of the top KFCs in the nation for town size. In Auburndale was where the location was, and so it was. We built another store almost each year, and started our growth there in the KFC business.
Wow. That's amazing. So much of what we talk to our kids about today is that being an athlete, it a lot of times gives you an advantage. After I came out and I was done playing professionally overseas, I did get into coaching, but I didn't realize I really didn't embrace the skill set that I had learned as an athlete. Probably my wife will tell you till much, much later in life. She's probably a little, she's like, I knew you had this in you, but you were fighting it all these years. But you talk about just how each step gave you information, each step gave you training. And then you develop your own company. So tell us about putting the Tinsley group together. And now you're in, I think you got 60 different restaurants where you're in like the airports and things like that. Like, how did starting your own group come about and then expand into what you have today?
Well, certainly, any business that you start, you have to have a company. You have to have a formal company, no matter whether it's an LLC, whether exactly what you set up. But we had a lot of help, a lot of guidance from our lawyer, from our CPA, and how to go about setting things up. My wife had been a general manager of a radio station in Jacksonville. She'd grown up in the radio business, so she knew how organized and structured administrative end of it. And of course, both of us had gone through a lot of skills training, and I had been teaching, the KFC business. So the two of us working together. It was our first company was called Pengio Inc., which was our two children, Penny and George, combined. So our second company was Sergio, which was Sarita, my wife's name, and George. So and that company didn't do real well. As a matter of fact, it lasted maybe 2 years, and we had to shut it down. And that was one of our early failures. And my wife said, do not put my name on another thing from that moving forward. So we went from Pengio to Tinsley Group, which was a TGI Fridays business that started off, and that was with another partner that I'd partnered with to go into the Tampa airport and open that TGI Fridays. And then our third company was Tinsley Family Concessions. We were in the concessions business at that time. That was in Miami. Okay. And so we used that name to also open our business in Louisville, Kentucky, at the Muhammad Ali Airport, and other businesses that we have. We have GW Tinsley Consulting LLC, and we've had P14 company that was named after my daughter, and so we've had a number of different companies, but our large company is the Tinsley Family Concessions now, which once we got into the airport business, and I fell in love with it, with all the different customers, guests that were traveling and coming through and so forth, and we were quite successful. Having that street mentality of being aggressive and so forth is a lot different in the airport business, where a lot of companies are kind of laid back because they figure you're going to come in here, sooner or later. Yeah. Well, we were a little bit more aggressive, and that paid off for us. And we established great relationships with our partner, which is HMS Host, a Volt, that they're master concessionaires. They're called primes.
Okay.
And those companies going into the airport business is a unique situation where there's a lot of money spent with soft costs before you actually get into the hard cost
Mhm.
scenario. So you've got to be well capitalized to be able to get into those business. So that's where we are today, strictly in the airport business in
Okay.
Tampa, Miami, and in Louisville. But we do other businesses that run through our offices here, community based businesses and other investments.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to tap into you because, mine right now I'm in the commercial space. I'm building a facility for basketball, for youth sports. I'm acquiring another facility to do kind of the same thing to expand, but I'm in that mode of creating access and opportunities for people in my community because having two boys in the NBA is a blessing that our family we do not take it lightly, and too much is given, much is expected. So being able to shepherd those blessings is one of the things that we really hold true to our heart, and it's something that we'll continue to do. But I have to say, because I know how important it is, and you've mentioned her a lot, is your wife and how supportive she has been. Because one, a wife of an athlete is not easy. A wife of a coach is not easy. And then a wife of someone who's growing a business like you have, to have her by your side, what has that meant to you all these years ago, knowing that this person has been with you since college?
Yeah. Well, from the business standpoint, she was a school teacher when she graduated and spent 3 years in elementary education. And then she went to work for her father, who owned a radio station there in Louisville, and grew through that particular arena to become a general manager of the local station in Louisville. And then she had the same offered opportunity down in Atlanta as a general manager there. We went back to Louisville, and she went back into the radio business. So she's always been in the radio business, a professional setting.
Mhm.
So she knew as much more than me as with respect to the administration in and running the office. I was the operator; she handled the office. So I attribute all of my success and and I really don't say it's our success as a family in what we've been able to accomplish. We just have different areas that we were responsible for. We have our disagreements, but at the same, we understand that we're going to have to move forward. And anybody out there, I'm sure, would tell you that the husband and wife in business together, taking it home and on vacations and so forth is not a pretty picture. So we've been married 54 years now, so we've been able to figure it out and work through it. We still have our disagreements, but I know when to say, okay, but move on. It's more important. So she's your original question. She's been attributed to all of my success. Even in college, when I made the dean's list
Mhm.
and joined the fraternity, we were king and queen. A lot of that had to do with our relationship that we were developing in college. I wanted her to be proud of me and what I was doing, and certainly she was going about her that she was the only black female on campus. So
Wow.
yeah, so I, we've kind of always been there for each other during our growth.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. We could talk for hours on this, and there's so many so many more questions I have for you, just in that respect. But you mentioned your children too, so they're a part of your organization, and like you said, they have their own little part. How has it been? Because one of the things you talk about is lineage, right? Like you and your wife have set the tone, and to have your son and your daughter with you, like what does that mean to you guys?
Well, it's been interesting. Our son has always wanted to be in the business since he graduated from Morehouse College,
Mhm.
and so he, I don't know if you know any Morehouse men, but they tend to, they know it all. if you will. So we decided to put him into business down in Miami when he, after he worked for a little bit in Atlanta after graduating from Morehouse. So he's been into business now ever since we first started. As a youth, he worked in breaking chicken, working in the back of the restaurant and so forth. My daughter worked at the front end, running the cash registers. Things came real easy with her for her, and she never really wanted to be involved in the business. She wanted to kind of do her. She's an artsy person, and she became an actress and a model, and went to New York, and she was up there. She passed away several years ago. She had an illness that was incurable, so she's no longer with us, but she is in spirit. Yeah. And my son has now become the president of the company. So he's running things, and we're kind of supporting him and as much as we can without really butting heads too much. He runs our. I still dibble and dabble there in the operations part to support when needed. My wife still works in the office as we build a infrastructure around him. So it's been a family affair, and we've been through the ups and downs together. And I think that we're fortunate that they really didn't get burnt out as early, because when we first opened our first restaurant, my son was 6 years old, and so and my daughter was 8 years old, and they I have pictures now of them in their uniforms, doing a little working around the restaurant and so forth.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Well, your resume, your accolades is crazy. I mean, you've been inducted in 9 different Hall of Fames for various things, whether it was for your athletic performances, you're giving back in your community, your professional endeavors. So what is lighting the fire? And I do want to ask about your book. So can you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for your book? And then we can go into what are you doing now to stay connected, stay involved, and really continue to give back.
Yeah. So around 2008, 2009, I was on the board of the NBA Retired Players Association. Went on as, excuse me, well, I first started out in the committees, and then was voted in to be a board member, and I started off as the treasurer. And so I was signing the marketing checks for anybody from Oscar Robertson to Daryl Imhoff, whoever was still living. The NBA runs contributes money to the marketing money for NBA players. It comes through the Retired Players Association, which is now the Legends of basketball. And so in my office, I was handling things here, and several people, they would hear names or somebody's holding for you on the phone and so forth. And so one of the guys encouraged me to write the book. Write a book, and I was reluctant because in 1972, I've got to bounce back here to this story is pretty important. In 1972, when my wife and I got married in April, the next month I found my mother and I found my father and 16 brothers and sisters. So all of a sudden, just after getting married, they all come into my life, plus the family that had raised me. So it was a very, emotional time for me. And so I'm jumping forward without getting into detail there. Jumping forward, when thinking about writing a book, all of that had to be in the book, and I was oversensitive, I think, to making sure that I didn't hurt anybody's feelings or anything, because all I knew is what I knew, not what other people were telling me had happened that led to my adoption and so forth. So I waited until both my father passed and also my mother had passed, and then I decided to do the second book. First book was The Determined Entrepreneur. The second one is the Catch as Catch Can, which is the one that has won a lot of awards and so forth. So and it as I said, it kind of highlights my my whole career and what has gone on. And so I felt that with the book that will motivate others that can see their own story in reading it and or listening to it. It comes in Kindle and there's a number of different ways to actually dive into it. So, and I still give a lot of presentations, speeches with different parts that's in the book. A lot of turning obstacles to opportunity. My number one restaurant burned down, and I was able to rebuild. And the story in here and talks about how I went about that and how I doubled the volume when I opened the restaurant. How I went over to Tampa and to bid on a KFC over there, walked away with the TGI Fridays opportunity, became the number one TGI Fridays in the nation. Wow. So it's all a turning obstacle to opportunity stories that throughout my life that have happened. So it's all right here in the book, and I'm sure that anybody reading it will see something of their own life in there, and will encourage them. No matter, I mean, the Colonel was 65 when he got started, when he first got the sale to Q-Blind or to John White Brown and Jack Massey to get KFC kicked off.
Okay. Oh, wow, man, that's amazing. So tell me a little bit. So why the title Catch Ass, Catch Can? Like, how did you come to that?
Well, the publishing company that I work with, I went to them with turning obstacles to opportunities. That had been what I've been using up to that particular point. Well, we kicked it around and sent it out and had different people give feedback and so forth. So we landed on Catch As Catch Can. It didn't go over real well with me at first, but taking their skill set and based off of my investment in putting this together, I decided to go with the pros. And it has really turned out real well because it's catchy, and also the picture that's on there that has me holding a basketball and a computer in the other hand. That's my daughter talked me into doing that during a photo shoot. So it has done real well. We're doing book signings around the state and up in Atlanta later part of this week. Is being sold on Amazon.com and also in some of the local bookstores, Ingram bookstores. The books are carrying them also.
Okay, nice. Now I have to say this because I did catch some videos of you, and you still like to work out. Look like you still get after it a little bit. So what other hobbies do you have? I mean, you seem so busy. Do you like to travel? Like, what are some things that you like to do outside of the business world?
Helping and giving back to people is probably the biggest charge that I get out of giving back. Still working with the NBA Legends of Basketball on the membership committee, and there's a number of different functions I'm involved with there, community activities, staying busy and in the business, just kind of helping out, working with the actual airports that we're involved in contributing. Doing social different events in those airports. We have kids come in, go and take them on a tour of the airport. I speak to them. The CEO of the airport speaks to them about life and how we made it. Tampa Airport, Mr. Michael Stevens is CEO over there, and he talks about his journey to. He's one of the top CEOs in Tampa Airport, number one in the nation. And so he talks to the kids, and I talk to them about our success there. So those things are pretty much what we really work on. You mentioned basketball. We won the World Championship. I was 70 years old, full court, over here in Disney. So I played right up until I was 75. I'm 79 today. I'll be 80 in September. So just because of two new hips, I don't get out there and get competitive anymore, but I still shoot, run, and do all those things. So I still enjoy the game.
Oh man, keep it going. I want to be doing what you're doing when I'm 79 for sure. Well, I have to say thank you so much. You know, there's so much more I definitely want to learn about you. This is not going to be our last conversation. I appreciate you for everything that you have done. Even not knowing you, I know that you've impacted so many lives in your community and all around the world. And so I want to say thank you for coming on. Thank you agreeing to this. And it has been an unbelievable experience for me to get to know you today.
Yeah, Kenyon, I appreciate it, and I wish you all the luck and success in your journey as you move through your young life and you and your family. So all the best, and let's stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So, hey, to my fans, to the audience, if you have gotten anything out of this today, if you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification button so then you know when the next Leave Your Legacy show is coming out. So until next time, let's keep connecting. The Leave Your Legacy podcast is brought to you by Storyline Multimedia. Storyline is an Iowa City-based media company that creates high-quality video, photo, and audio for local businesses. They produce a number of great podcasts, including this one. If you're interested in sharing your story, please contact them at storylinemultimedia.com. And remember, your story matters. Don't chase, attract. Welcome to Verve, a creative sanctuary built for brands seeking depth, not noise. They create with intention, publish with purpose, and believe the best ideas take time. If the internet is noise, Verve is the signal. They don't interrupt attention, they earn it. At Sportsman Solutions, they believe sports facilities are more than buildings. They're the heart of a community. Whether it's planning, development, or day-to-day operations, their team helps turn vision into reality because the future of sports starts with the spaces that bring communities together. Every journey forward begins with hope. At On With Life, hands, hearts, and minds come together to help individuals living with brain injury and neurological conditions reclaim their independence and rediscover what's possible. Because healing isn't just about recovery, it's about getting on with life.